the top of the Empire State Building.
Z100, New York.
Hey, yo, what's going on? I'm Josh Martinez, celebrating International Women's Day with my guest, Ariel Epstein, of all things sports betting. So, first off, where are you from?
I'm from Rockland County, New York.
There you go. So we got a true New Yorker in the house. So sometimes I say it's South Canada.
People do think that a lot of people will say it's upstate. No. I went to Syracuse University. That's considered central New York. Buffalo is upstate.
Yep. Then
Then you've got Rockland County, which everyone messes up with Westchester. All that matters is that we listen to Z100.
You're damn right it does. See, I already like you. So we're celebrating International Women's Day by highlighting women that are killing it in male-dominated career fields. So let's just jump right into it. You are the sports betting prop queen, I believe. Is it
Yeah.
correct, right? Is that the correct term? Is that
Prop queen, that's
There we
what they
go.
call me.
What made you want to get into sports betting?
Sports betting was something I was intrigued by back when I interviewed and auditioned at CBS Sports. I had a great person there, Kieran Portley, who left. He gave me an audition. They had me read off a money line. I have to be honest, that was the extent of my betting knowledge at that time, because I was doing more fantasy sports since I was 9 years old, fantasy sports.
Damn.
I played in my league with all my guy friends in middle school because I loved especially baseball. I drafted Derek Jeter #1 even when he was close to retiring.
That's what I'm saying.
Had
That's not
to
being
have him.
biased.
A little bit biased, but then the rest of my team was good. I won 2 years in a row in middle school. The boys kicked me out of the league. I had to do random leagues and random whatever websites, but I loved fantasy. When everyone was in the fantasy business, it was very oversaturated. I said, okay, I need to stand out somehow because fantasy is not it. Everyone's doing it already. Betting was the one place people weren't looking, on top of the fact that people weren't doing the props because it was really an East Coast thing at the time, back in 2019 when betting was new to New Jersey. Props were really only out here. Vegas doesn't do props that often. It's mostly money lines. You could do parlays, but money lines, sides, and totals, not really props. So that's how it all kind of came together.
So if you were to write a dummy, what is it, the dummies book guide or whatever it is from back in the day, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is like the number one do and the number one don't of sports betting?
Do bet individual props or bets. Don't bet parlays. Parlays, unless you really just want to have fun, are not long-term profitable. You're going to make more money. Let's just say, for anyone that even knows somewhat of betting, a parlay is a lot of bets that you have to hit in order to win the bet. You could bet $10. The payout could be $1,000. You still have to hit about probably 10 bets in that. Whereas if you bet them individually, let's say you hit 9 out of 10 bets, you're having a profitable day, as opposed to if you hit 9 out of 10 legs of a parlay, you lose. I'd rather hit 9 out of 10 bets than 9 out of 10 legs.
So what made you kind of hone in and go, this is the career field that I want to get into specifically?
I love that you could just focus on the game. I have no interest, and I know people here do have interest in celebrities' lives, and it's all you guys talk about, right? You talk about you talk the drama of Hollywood at some of these shows. I never cared to follow the athletes home. I don't care what an athlete does when he's at home, off the field. I want to focus on the game itself. All people care about when they watch sports betting videos or content is winning bets about the game. That's what led me to sports betting and not really having to do this sideline reporter role where I'm stalking the parents and seeing if they're concerned for their kid who just broke his leg in the NFL field. I feel for them. It's not the career path I wanted.
So there's not many women in sports betting, especially around the time that you started. Who helped you kind of navigate accordingly as specifically a woman? Because I'm sure you deal with trolls. I'm sure you deal with people that are like, oh, because of your gender, you know nothing, which is the dumbest shit ever in 2023, by the way. So who kind of like helped you navigate your career?
My best friend now, Kelly Stewart, her name's Kelly in Vegas. She works with Barstool. She has helped me a ton with a lot of just networking too, especially in Las Vegas, which networking in Las Vegas is just as important as networking in New York. If you know the right people, you're set here. she helped me with navigating all the trolls, saying don't feed into them, because it's the mistake she made was feeding into trolls, and she's about 10 years older than me. So she learned a lot from engaging with crazies on the internet. I really try not to. Unfortunately, I was not feeling well a couple of weeks ago, and I lost a few bets because I just wasn't feeling well, and it's the worst time in the NBA to bet right now.
Yes,
I started going at the trolls, and I instantly regretted it because they are relentless.
So, who right now do you kind of go to for guidance? Obviously, Kelly in Vegas, as you mentioned, but is there anybody else that you go to specifically for guidance, being so young in your career so far?
Always, and I give a lot of credit to my broadcast coach, Joe Montgomery. She really helped me with kind of figuring out the entire sports landscape, not necessarily sports betting, just sports in general. She helps me get better on air all the time too, point out my mistakes. My parents, they're a huge help to me always. I have to give them credit for everything. My parents have always put me on the right path to make sure that I knew this field in anything entertainment was going to be a grind. I've given up weddings. I've given up going out in college because I was covering games. I could have been covering women like softball at Syracuse, and I missed out on parties with my friends because I was covering a softball game. There's so much sacrifice that comes with getting to what you hope is the top level of your career, still making those sacrifices today. My parents were the first ones to say, hey, you're going to intern for the Rockland Journal-News in 9th grade. You're going to go twice a week for free. We're going to drive you there. You're going to work in the news department of the newspaper. You're going to write about whatever they say. I wrote about quilting. I wrote about the police. Nothing I wanted to write about. Nothing sports related. It's a grind, though, and it's worth the payoff.
What would you say is your biggest, career achievement so far?
Ooh, biggest career achievement. I love everything I do right now, working with PointsBet Sportsbook and being on network television with MLB Network, NBA TV. MLB Network is a place still where I started at last year. It was a dream job. I remember they started the network. I said, I want to work there. Actually, in my 5th grade yearbook, before MLB Network, I said I want to be the Yankees reporter. That was my, in 20 years, want to be Yankees reporter. I got to interview Derek Jeter as a Yankees I ended up interning for the Yankees my senior year of college, which was a crazy fluke thing. My grandparents were at a bar mitzvah with the COO of the Yankees, Lon Trost, by some magic.
I just wonder what that mitzvah gift was. Then, if you have the COO of the Yankees there,
he had they had no idea who he was. He just had a World Series ring on every finger, which helps you stand out.
I would say so.
Then they just went up to him and said, "Hey, how does my granddaughter get an internship here?" I ended up emailing him my resume. We got along real well, and he gave me the Yankees internship, where by the end of the summer, my gift was that I got to interview Derek Jeter, and that was the coolest moment ever. But of course, I always said, if I interview Jeter, I'll retire tomorrow. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even start my career professionally yet. So working at MLB Network's pretty up there.
What advice would you give to women that are trying to get into sports media?
You've got to keep grinding, work hard. You're going to need to know more than everybody. I prep 4 hours a day. My job starts for tomorrow tonight. I'll go home, I eat dinner, then I start prepping for tomorrow, the night before that. I go in with so many notes, I'm probably over-prepared. I'd rather that than enter the room with anybody in this field and feel like I missed out on a point, didn't know something, they defer to me. I am like, ugh. Being a deer in headlights is the worst feeling. You've got to be overly prepared. You also just have to have faith and not give up on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Always keep improving. Don't let any man tell you that you can't do this because you're a female. There are so many men in this business who have never played a snap of football in their entire life. There are so many of them. You could, I always ask people, I'll ask men, I'll say, did you play professional baseball? Did you get on an NFL field? Did you even play high school football or basketball? A lot of them will say no. Then you wonder, so because just you're a man and I'm a female, that's the difference? No. If any man can prepare to be on air who's never played, a female can do it too. I don't take that. And I always say to females, don't be the female, especially in betting, don't be the female to just throw your picks on Twitter. Don't just put a pic out there. The one way I made my name was that everywhere that I posted a pic, I always had analysis to back it up. 3 points. If that didn't hit, everyone on my Twitter is usually saying, I can't believe that bet didn't hit. You totally convinced me. That's what females have to do.
So when was there a time, and you could get into specifics, maybe not name somebody, or we could throw them under the bus, because people
love that.
Yeah,
they love the drama.
No, but also people that discriminate could go to hell. Have you faced any discrimination in your career so far because you were a woman? If so, when?
A few times. Fortunately, I have a strong New York personality, so a lot of the times people outside of New York don't mess with me. The first job I ever got professionally out of college, the news director at that local TV station, I was applying for the sports anchor job. The news director apparently, which I didn't know this till later on, knows nothing about sports. Nothing. He asked me a question on my interview about the 70s Yankees lineup. Mind you, I'm born in the 90s. Yes, I know a lot about baseball history, but I can't name you the entire Yankees 1976 lineup, whatever he was asking me to name. I forget. I blacked it out. And I just looked. I said, okay, but you're not hiring me. Nonetheless, you're in North Carolina. Like, you're not even hiring me to cover the Yankees, nonetheless, the 1976 Yankees. But fortunately, I did get the job because the sports director was not that way at all. He's still we're still very close. He said, oh, forget about that. It's fine. I know you're a hard worker. I know you know sports. Don't worry. So in the end, it worked out. That was one question, though, I got on an interview where I said, really? We're going to do the whole quiz thing? I hate the quiz thing.
What would you, so we asked advice before about somebody getting into sports media, but what advice would you have for women that may face discriminatory questions during a job interview, like the best way to handle it?
A lot of the times, if you can't answer the question, which in that case I couldn't, a lot of the times you hope you can answer the question, then you really show them up. I just look at them and say, listen, I'm not a sports history buff, but I will work harder than anybody that you bring into this office. I also, or you just turn around and don't even say the sports history buff part. I would say, really, we're going to do this whole quiz thing. I really work hard. I know my sports. I will come on air. I will give you a really good on-air presence. I have personality. I love what I do. Passion is the one thing that I've gotten so many compliments on from people in the business of why I've gotten my jobs was passion. If anyone wants to get into sports, female, male, whatever it is, you just have to have the passion and love for what you do. Usually that will catapult you into any job over someone that might be this sports history buff.
Well, at the end of the day, I think it takes, when you're in the line of entertainment, you got to be entertaining, you got to be charismatic, borderline charming, because you can know all this information, but if you're monotone in your delivery, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
That was the one in with sports betting, because when I jumped in back in 2019, there was a stark difference between two groups of people. You were either the entertainers of betting, or you were the sharp bettors that were out in Vegas. They just were so boring. They're the old school guys who have been doing this for 40 plus years, which is, if you're a bettor, it's really intriguing to hear their take on things and you learn a lot. You're not listening for entertainment, you're listening for knowledge. I loved that I was able to bridge the gap between the two of knowing sports betting, studying it like another language, also having the TV, even radio experience to be able to come on air and do that.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, people ask me this all the time. I hate the question. The betting business is changing so much. I really just hope to be hosting shows talking about sports betting. Even, I think the way of the future, truthfully, with sports betting is incorporating it into our narrative. For example, let's say your big story of the day is that Derek Jeter retires with the Yankees, right? So I know I'm aging us back a few years. However, if Derek Jeter retires, how does that change the Yankees in the futures market for World Series odds? That brings you into the conversation of, oh, okay, does Derek Jeter leaving the Yankees hurt them or help them? That's where the conversation shifts, as opposed to everyone just thinking sports betting is so bad. It's you're forcing sports betting on us. No, I didn't tell you to bet the Yankees or not. I'm just telling you what the odds are saying, if that helps or hurts the Yankees. Aaron Judge going to the Yankees this year, or when in New York for the Mets, when the Mets ended up not getting Correa. The odds were shifting like crazy when Judge and Correa and all that nonsense was going on. So that's where I think that the narrative is in sports, is just incorporating sports betting into the conversation.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to tell us one futures bet in the MLB for either the Yankees or the Mets. I will preface this by saying it's still spring training, so if she doesn't have an answer, lay off her, okay?
Oh, boy.
Because you may not have been ready for that. So if you have one, cool. If not, it is what it is.
Oh, boy. If I was to bet something in the futures market on either of these teams, because clearly there's not going to be much value on the Yankees, I like value in the futures market. I would say the Mets will probably do something at the trade deadline. Now that they lost out on Correa, they'll probably get some other great contact hitter at the trade deadline. I could see the Mets at some point making a really nice playoff push, especially with all the money that they spent. They better.
Yeah.
The Mets potentially to win the division for the first time in Atlanta's won it 5 years now in a row. Maybe the Mets win the division. Even a lot of the times I tell people, if you see the Mets making a push, you could get the Mets to win the National League pennant, which gives you a really nice payout. You can hedge out of that bet by betting the other side. If the Mets do make it to a certain point in the playoffs, bet the other side then. And this way, maybe they don't need to win it. They just need to get there, and you bet the other side and hedge out of it.
One bet I do have is NL East standings. Mets, Braves. First Mets, second Braves. That's one that I have. And let me just say for the record, I'm a diehard Yankees fan. I'm just trying to be smart about my bets.
Me too. I always say hedge your happiness. Hedge your happiness is don't put all your money on your team. Bet the other side so that either way, if your team wins, you're happy. If the other team wins, you're still happy because you made some money.
There you go. Ariel Epstein, one more time, thank you for coming through and showing us love, girl.
Thank you for having me.
It's all love.
From the top of the Empire State Building.
Z100.